guys, welcome back. It's Josh with the Financial Advisor Car Guy. This week, I'm working on the Eclipse again. Now I have the garage door closed because I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, but my neighbor directly across from me here is weed whacking their yard. And you may be able to hear that machine turning on and off, but it was making too much noise, so I closed my garage. But today we are replacing the slave master cylinder in the Eclipse. Now I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. As you guys know, this is my daughter's car. She's been learning to drive. And a couple of weekends ago, she was at a friend's house and I had to go pick her up. And I thought, you know what? I hadn't driven the Eclipse in a little while. It's been sitting. I'll go ahead and drive it to pick her up. So I did. I get, started up, fires right up. Great. It's been sitting for a couple of weeks. So I was a little concerned the battery may not crank because it's been cold and whatnot, but everything was fine. Started right up. Driving across town, and I pull up in front of the house and I text my daughter, like, hey, listen, I'm here. Come on out whenever you're ready. So a couple minutes later, out she comes. She gets in the car and I'm sitting in neutral. The car is running, but because I didn't want to just hold the clutch down, I went ahead and put it in neutral as I'm sitting there with my foot on the brake, waiting for her to come out. So she does. She gets in. She's telling me about her day and whatever, and I'm struggling to get it into first. I cannot for the life of me get it into first. It's like the gate, it's not gated, but you know what I mean? It's like the gate where that needs to shift into is blocked. It's like there's just no way to get it into first. The knob floats in neutral just fine, but I can't get it into first. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can get it into second. Nope, couldn't get it into second either. So my daughter's still talking to me and not realizing that I'm like struggling as I'm listening to her, right? Finally, she's like, is something wrong? I'm like, yeah. In fact, I can't shift it into first gear. We're stuck here for right now. So after continuing to try and I'm like pumping the pedal and eventually I just like push my foot down on the pedal as absolutely hard as it'll go. And it goes into first. I'm like, okay, let's do what we can. So I limp it home. Every time I shift, I'm like smashing on the pedal super hard, like to the floor to shift, and roll the stop sign and the whole 9 yards. Like we limped it home, and here it is sat for a couple of weeks. Now, my very first thought was there's got to be a leak somewhere. It was perfect before I drove it last. Then I drove it and it wasn't perfect. It wouldn't shift. And once I got it home, same story. I left it in gear. But I couldn't, stepping on the clutch, I couldn't get it out of gear. I think it was in first gear when I came around the corner into the driveway. Maybe second, in fact. Regardless, it was stuck in gear and I couldn't get it out without literally forcing it out. And I don't really want to break anything. So it is that. And so I've been doing a little bit of research. We had a busy couple of weeks. We were out of town for part of spring break, and so the car's just been sort of on the back burner. But this week I did want to get back to it, and so I started investigating it a little bit more after doing some Google searching and some researching. And there's things that it's like from a small pin in the shift knob clear to your clutch is bad, right? It's no different than WebMD. I've got a headache. Well, now you have cancer and are dying, right? It's like quite a leap. But you don't want to just trust what you read on the internet. First things first, you've got to really diagnose it. Long and short of it is it turns out that the slave master cylinder is seeping. I was able to check my brake fluid reservoir, or my clutch fluid reservoir, and it was really, really low. So I topped it off and pumped the clutch a whole bunch, really working the bubbles out of the system, trying to get any air out. And was able to get it into first with a little bit of struggle, but it shifted into first. I was able to drive it in and out of my driveway, shifted from first to second to third, in the driveway, just trying to get it through all the gears and everything. And I thought, okay, well, that's fine. At least now I can move it. It's got a leak somewhere. Well, after further investigation, I could tell it was leaking through the slave cylinder. So the long and short of it is it's a $30 part. It is here today. We're going to go ahead and get it. I'm going to get it installed. And I'm going to check back at the end of the video just to kind of confirm and let you know that that was indeed the deal. And we'll kind of go from there. But that is where we're at. Next week, I plan to work on the Mustang again. If I turn this a little bit. Okay, so the Mustang is up here. You can see all these parts laid out right on my lift. What you're looking at there is my steering box. I've got inner and outer tie rods for both sides. And I also have a, oh man, what is the center link? That's what it's called, the center link. So all that stuff's gonna get replaced on my car. It still wanders the road. So when I'm driving, any rut, any bump, any pothole, anything makes the car like really just wander from left to right. It's really hard to go in a straight line, and it's perfectly aligned. I took it to an alignment shop about this time a year ago, and they put it on the rack and got it all straight and everything. And they said, listen, you know, your components are worn out. It's as good as it can be without starting to do this stuff. So that's going to go on. I might even do that later today as well. I will likely wrap up the Eclipse first, but I will probably start working on that. And that'll be next week's video. We'll talk more about what's going on with that, and we'll go from there. But super quick and easy this week. But like I said, I'm going to check back with you guys in about 2 seconds with how the Eclipse went. So good news, the Eclipse is now complete. I went ahead and swapped out. Now earlier in the video, I said slave master cylinder, and I don't know. It's the clutch slave cylinder, not master. It's just the clutch slave. And so what I did, and I'll show you the part here. This is the broken part that came out of the car. Actually, let me do. So this is the part, but let me go ahead and flip the camera around. While looking at the clutch slave, what you'll notice are a couple of things. So we've got, this is the outflow for the hydraulic fluid to the system. This is the intake, and there's usually a hose that slips on, and then there's a little reservoir. And I'll put a still photo up so that you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. But then this piece here, this bracket, mounts to the firewall. And you have to access it from the inside. This is behind the pedal on the wall. And then, you know, so there's a nut on this end, and then up top, there's a bolt that goes through into the firewall. So it's secured from both sides, which is great, but, and then this plunger kind of moves in and out as you step on or release your pedal. Where we were having the problem was this grommet piece that kind of goes through the firewall. It was seeping kind of, well, right in here, it was seeping out. And so there's a bad seal inside this, and it's like a $30 part. So it's obviously not worth taking it apart and replacing any seals. You just replace the unit. And like a dummy, I forgot to take a picture of the new one, but it looks essentially the same, but clean. So again, pretty simple fix to really being able to drive the car again. It took maybe 30 minutes to install, and again, it was about $30. And of course, then you put new fluid in, you've got to bleed it. Now, the system itself was pretty straightforward. All I did was pump the pedal a bunch, and there's a bleeder valve. And so you just got to play with it until you get it correct, and then all is good. So now that she can get back on the road, she can focus back on learning to drive and getting her license. She's figuring out how to shift, and we just couldn't do that with a busted clutch, right? I mean, it was not wanting to shift. So we can now get back to the instructional side of learning to drive, and she's really excited about it. She wasn't home yesterday when I fixed it, and I was keeping her up to date via text. I did let her know that I figured out what the problem was and was able to repair it, and it didn't cost very much money, which is always a good thing. So I'm excited about that, but more so, you know, just getting that car again a little bit further along. There's not a whole lot left to do. I still have a couple parts to sell. She did take the spoiler off the back. We had it wrapped with carbon fiber, and the wrap just wouldn't stick. It kept peeling. We used heat. We used everything we could imagine, aside from like spray adhesive, which we could have probably tried, but we didn't want to mess up the fact that if the wrap didn't work long term, I wanted to be able to remove it. And if we used spray adhesive, that keeps it from happening the way I want it to. So we didn't go that route. She literally just peeled the wrap off and then sprayed it a high gloss black. So I don't know, we'll put it back on the car and see how it looks. I know initially she really wanted a carbon spoiler to match the carbon hood. And really both have just been failure after failure. So it's been kind of a learning thing for us. We've been doing this very much on the cheap, but from the standpoint of just getting the car how she'd like it, I want to do that for her. So we'll keep trying things. I'm not sure where we're going from here, but she's about ready to give up on the carbon altogether and peel the hood and just paint it a glossy black to match now her gloss black spoiler. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, that's all I got for you guys. Again, next week, we're going to be back on the Mustang, swapping out some steering suspension or some steering components. And I'll let you know how that goes and the final results on that thing as well. So thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment down below, hit that notification bell. But most importantly, remember, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.